What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got a Artisan list for the FNM event. Artisan, of course, is commons and uncommons only. So no rares, no mythics, just commons and uncommons. So it's kind of a budget-friendly type of a format, which would be pretty sweet if we had it on a more regular basis. But just getting it, once a month or whatever, however often they do it in the FNM events is still, it's at least something. But yeah, and of course, if you're a free-to-play player, you can still run these decks in at least the casual queues and still have a fun time and still get your dailies and things like that. So this one, we're taking a look at zombies because core set brought us some cool new zombies and just some nice spells in black like Eliminate and Kitesail Freebooter. But basically, we're blue black or Dimir zombie tribal with some other kind of value plays as well. So let's kind of start at the top here. Dreadmalkin, it's a zombie 1/1 menace for 1, so it's pretty reasonable. And we can pay 3 to sack another creature or planeswalker to put 2+1/+1 encounters on the Dreadmalkin. So if you have mana open and your opponent goes to kill something, you can just sacrifice it in response to put a couple of counters on it, assuming of course they're not targeting your Dreadmalkin. So that's kind of a neat little trick in certain situations. Or just do, if you go to combat, swing all, and your opponent blocks something, and if they block, something else, then you can just sack that to the Dreadmalkin and put counters on the Dreadmalkin to push more damage across. So, there are any fun things you can do with the Malkin here, the zombie cat. Foulmire Knight, just kind of nice value play, especially in this type of a format. 1/1 Death Toucher for 1 works really well because a lot of people are going to have a hard time getting through for damage with getting around Death Touch. And also has the adventure side, we can draw a card and at the cost of 1 life, so that's pretty reasonable. Liliana Steward is a kind of a new card here. It's a 1 mana 1/2. Just running a couple copies, we can sacrifice it to have our opponent discard a card. We can only do this at sorcerer speed, which is pretty common for this type of effect. I would imagine most Artisan decks tend to be pretty kind of aggro-oriented, so I don't know how often we're actually going to be using this, but obviously against other slow decks, if we suspect our opponent is just holding up a removal spell as maybe one of their last cards in their hand, we can definitely use this. So Liliana Steward is actually one of those cards that does reasonably well in a lot of situations. Just a 1/2 for 1 is pretty fine as well. And it's a zombie, so we have some nice zombie synergy to go along with that. And with zombies, we're doing the amass thing as well. So Callous Dismissal is going to be one of our kind of a tempo pseudo removal plays. Being able to bounce any non-land permanent to its owner's hand and amass 1 is pretty reasonable. So if it's a creature, there are uncommon planeswalkers that you might want to bounce back to your opponent's hand and slow them down while making a creature at the same time, or making your existing zombie token bigger. So that's pretty sweet. And Lazotep Plating, kind of the same thing. It amasses 1 while protecting you and permanents you control. It doesn't give him indestructible, but it does give him hexproof, so at least protects you from target removal. And of course, this being Artisan, you don't have to worry about sweepers, except I believe Flame Sweep is an uncommon. But pretty much everything else, like Ritual of Soot, Cry of the Carnarium, things like that, Shadow of the Sky, I think those are all rares, if I remember correctly. So basically, all the playable sweepers are rares. There's some that are uncommon that are just okay. They might see some play depending on what your opponent is up to, but for the most part, Lazotep Plating is going to save you in certain situations from spot removal, because mostly what you're going to see is spot removal. So speaking of which, we're running all 4 copies here of Eliminate, just being able to destroy a creature or planeswalker with mana cost 3 or less. I imagine we're going to see a lot of kind of cheaper creatures here, so I think Eliminate as a 4 of is pretty reasonable. 2 copies here of the Taskmaster. It's a 2/3 zombie for 2, which is pretty sweet. It does enter tapped, which is a bit of a downside, so it can't block the turn it comes down. But being able to pay 3 to get creatures back from your graveyard to your hand is pretty cool. So we can block something with the Foulmire Knight, kill it. We can sack our Steward, make our opponent discard, and then we can swing with the Taskmaster, pay 3, get that back to your hand. You can hold up the 3 mana to draw a card and then pay it down as Death Touch. You can just drop the Steward again, and then make your opponent discard on the following turn, things like that. So there's some cool stuff you can do with the Taskmaster. But, it's definitely not amazing kind of matchup dependent, so just a couple copies. 2 copies here of the Freebooter to kind of look at our opponent's removal, or just any non-creature, non-land card, and then put that under the exile under the Freebooter. So it kind of forces your opponent to deal with that before they can kind of deal with maybe your zombie token or something else. So Freebooter is kind of a nice kind of tempo play. It's called the Callous Dismissal. Of course, all 4 copies here is the Lazotep Reaver. It's a zombie itself, and it makes a zombie token. So that's pretty sweet. Kind of the same thing here with the Aven Eternal. It does give us a flying presence, so that's pretty sweet. 2/2 flyer for 3, which is okay. But in this format, it's perfectly fine. And then you make a zombie token at the same time. So 3 mana to make a 2/2 and at least a 1/1. It's actually a pretty good deal. Liliana's Devotee is what we're really counting on to make this work. It's not a zombie, but however zombies you control get +1/+0. Otherwise, it's just a 3 mana 2/3. And at the beginning of this up, if a creature died this turn, you can pay 2 and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So that's pretty sweet because it just says any creature. So if you go to combat and your opponent blocks and they lose one of their creatures, that still counts, and you can have the 2 mana open to sink into the Devotee to make zombie tokens. So just kind of a really great value engine. I think this card can be really, really good in this type of format. And finally here we have the Gleaming Overseer. You can't run a mass strategy in these cards without the Overseer. Just a fantastic card. It's a zombie 1/4, which isn't great. 4 toughness is pretty good though. But then it makes your zombie tokens hexproof and menace. That's pretty sweet. And so the mana base for just 20 to 22 lands, because we're topping out at 3. So once you get to 3/4 mana, you're good to go. So 6 islands, since we're mostly black. 6 islands, 10 swamp, and since we're in the budget, you don't get the watered graves or things like that. So I like to run 6. So we're running the life gain, Dismal Backwater as a 4 of, and then just the Guildgate as a 2 of. It really depends on what you're running. If it's super mana intensive, then you definitely want to run maybe all 4 Guildgates and maybe even like Evolving Wilds as well. But since we're pretty light, we don't have any double black, double blue type spells. We're pretty simple. Having all these black 1-drops when we're mostly black is fine because we have the 10 swamps. And then, yeah, we don't have any of those intense mana costs where we have, double this, double that, or anything like that. So we're fine with just running 4 and 2, and that's generally my preferred strategy in these kind of budget formats. All right, so this is obviously being recorded before the event, but, the matchmaker generally tries to pitch you up against similar power level decks. So we're just going to jump into some casual games, just so you guys get a feel for how the deck does, and if it's something that you're interested in running for the event. Okay, against Anthony Garvey. This hand seems fine. We can Malkin on 1, and then if we have to play a 2-drop, we can just drop our island. Otherwise, we can just go for a Guildgate and see what they do. We are on the draw, which isn't super great with this hand, but we'll take it. Another island. So I may need to drop one of these islands since we're on the draw. They'll likely have a 2-drop here. So best way to do it, instead of just going for the eliminate right away, is just to tempo them with a dismissal, and then we can make them recast it and then eliminate it. Golgari. Sure, we have menace, so we can get around that. But I still think we go for that. We can just drop a swamp, but I think we're just going to go for the dismissal here, so let's swing 1. They can't block because of the menace. I think they're reading that now. Temper them a little bit. So especially since they were not able to play that on 1, it should throw them off quite a bit. And, ooh, Taskmaster, that's pretty good. Let's just swing both here and probably drop the Taskmaster, save the eliminate. If they want to block the 1/1, that's fine. They do not. So I think I just want to drop the Taskmaster and the Guildgate just so we have 4 mana open next turn and creatures on board. So we have more ways to get through for damage. They can attack here and we have the Hemophage, so we lose a little bit of life from the mutation. But we really don't care. That is a 4-drop, so we cannot eliminate it, but we can dismissal. Play a Mass, play a Reaver, a Mass again. And opponent packs it in. Got them down to 4. They would have to replay their, basically replay their board. So yeah. All right, up against Amon Ying. So probably want to get our Steward down here on 1. So running these tap lands definitely forces you to kind of figure out how you want to prioritize. But I think having a 1-drop and 2-drop, and even if we don't draw a land and we have to play the Backwater on 3, we still have Eliminate open, so that still feels pretty reasonable, even though ideally we like to go Steward into Taskmaster into Devotee. But of course that's assuming our opponent just doesn't do anything, which is not likely. So kind of like the last game, I think just getting the Taskmaster down on 2 here and then hold removal is going to be better. But our opponent doesn't even have a creature in play, so no thought required. Okay, white, blue, that's pretty annoying. Potentially. They're looking at our Taskmaster, so they could have bounce effects, they could have some enchantment removal. And you just say go. So just a good old counterspell deck. We'll go for the Devotee, even though we don't want that counter, but I do need to deal with these counters at some point. Essence Scatter. Aren't you a clever player? Swing 3. So unless they have a way to deal with the Taskmaster, we can just bounce the Devotee back to our hand next turn and go from there. Banishing Light. Okay, our opponent is the Fun Police, apparently. Well, we could just draw a card. We could make him replay the Banishing Light, which seems reasonable. Could just discard and forego 1 point of damage. We'll just pass and draw with the Foulmire Knight. So apparently this person was not loved as a child, and now they have to play counterspells and removal heavy decks just to compensate. Elspeth's Devotee. Okay. That is a 4-mana play, which means we do not get to eliminate it. We can bounce it since they already found the Elspeth. Probably doesn't matter too much. They could have like a board wipe here, a shatter, a time wipe, but we just need to kind of go wide and hope for the best. They missed a 3rd white source for their Elspeth, but they could just drop their 3/3 again. And it's a good spot where we could swing all with the Malkin, and whatever they block, we just sack it to the Malkin. They could have multiple creatures here. Nope, just the 2/1 first striker, which only has first strike on their turn. That does actually eliminate targets, so I think we'll just empty out our hand here. Try to. Does kind of imply that they have a counterspell potentially, if they left mana open just to play a 2/1 instead of running their 4-mana play out here. Maybe just another Essence Scatter. I think we'll actually go for the sacrifice on the Steward. Okay, unsummoned. Okay, discard. Revoke existence. Sorcerer speed, do exile, enchantment, or artifacts. So this is just the Elspeth starter deck, basically. Okay, looks like they're just holding up counter magic, or maybe unsummons. Let's swing on, see what they do. So they have to be holding up a counterspell, but they're not playing this 4-mana creature. Elspeth conquers death. Gonna target our flyer. Okay, we'll grow our Malkin in response. Thanks. Another land. We're only 22 lands, so we shouldn't have this issue. But yet, here we are. We'll hold up, just pretend like we have maybe a removal spell or something. Although, from what we've seen from our opponent, I'm not sure if they're clever enough to actually play around things. We basically have lethal here, so let's have some way to deal with our Malkin. Search for a card named something Hoplite, put it onto the battlefield. They could have an unsummon here for blue mana. That's the only thing that's going to save them. Gleaming Overseer. Yeah, we'll swing both. They can't block the Malkin because it has Menace. And we got there. Boom. No unsummon. Sweet. Okay, up against Ravenous. It's an okay hand. We have a 1-drop, probably the Malkin into Reaver. Some more, a little bit more aggressive. Oh man, those sleeves are super sweet. Okay, implies they're running a cat deck. Let's just swing first. Just in case they have some kind of a 1-mana play here. So we got the Devotee next turn and a nice wide board. So regardless of what they have here on 2, we are in a good spot. Definitely want to find some removal for that. But Devotee can deal with that. You can't block the Malkin. You can block one of these and lose your Pridemate if you want. And if you don't have a way to grow it, then we can just block it with our 2/3. If you do grow it with some counters, we have Eliminate, which is why this is a must instead of Heartless Act in this format, because probably going to see a lot of Pridemate in an Artisan style list. Yes, they get the +2 boost on the Pridemate, and of course they're going to swing in. I'll say it's Bounty, but they're tapped out. See what we draw. Dismissal. That's pretty good. We could just kill the... I do want to deal with this I'll say it's Bounty. But... So we have options here. We could just go for the Aven Eternal, just get a flyer down, and then hope for the best from there. But I think I kind of like the Steward into a removal. Let's just attack and see what they do. We'll let them decide, since I can't make up my mind here what the ideal play is. There's definitely a case to be made for just bouncing something, but the Daybreak Charter can come down. Yeah, that has Menace. Daybreak Charter can come back down and give the Bounty a +2 boost and give them lifelink. Okay, if they just want to block the token, that seems pretty ideal. I don't want to lose my Devotee, so we'll just eliminate. I want to trade with a token, that's fine. We can amass later. They do get to grow their Pridemate, which we can bounce. With the Dismissal, they're down to 10. So let's have a lot of life gain. We're definitely in the driver's seat right now with a better board state. Bazooka Kit, that's pretty nasty. Fortunately, you don't have to deal with that in Artisan. Hit for 4, sure. Looking pretty aggro here. Just bounce you. And definitely want to deal with this Bazooka Kit, even though it's tempting to just go after their life total. Don't want to give them any opportunity to climb back into it. Shadow the Sky could be pretty devastating, but again, you don't have to play around sweepers as much in Artisan. So we're just going to go for it. If they have it, then so be it. We'll just concede and move on to the next one, but I think if this were just a true Artisan event, we would have this one pretty much wrapped up, unless they have some way to gain 1,000,000 life. Nope, they have an indestructible creature though. They have to tap it to make it indestructible. We can grow our token. So they can block 2. Were they dead there? They can block 2 things. They still take 2, 4, 6. Yep, they still take 8. So, yep. Pretty nice. Take down mono white there. Alright, so just going to wrap it up there. Some quick games. So I think that's a pretty good showcase for what the deck is capable of. I mean, we did pretty well in those games, and that was just a regular unranked play queue. Obviously, Lazotep Plating is here for the amass token if you want to run something else like a negate or a keep safe, something like that. There's definitely some flexibility. I do like the amass side of it, and just being able to give your permanents hexproof is really the critical thing, since, like I said, you don't have to really play around like the sweeper effects. But you also have the Freebooter as well to kind of take away any removal spells from your opponent's hand. So that's pretty sweet. While also playing an evasive creature at the same time, or even if you whiff, you have a nice blocker, especially if your opponent has flying. So also running the Aven Eternal. There definitely could be some Azorius Flyers list that could be pretty reasonable in an Artisan format. I haven't looked at that too closely, but yeah, just common and uncommon Flyers seems like you could make a pretty reasonable deck with that. So we do have the removal with the Eliminates and the Dismissal to kind of tempo our opponent, but I still think you need some flying creatures is pretty nice to have, and so I definitely feel like the Eternal, even just as a 2-of, and the Freebooter just as a 2-of, fits in pretty nicely. But mostly we're trying to be an aggro list with the Devotee kind of pumping up, and you saw how we were able to kind of go wide, especially against mono white. And the Steward there, felt perfect as a 2-of. We were able to kind of chip in for some damage by getting it down on turn 1 a couple times, and then if anything else, you can sack it to the Malkin, and that worked out really well when we did that in one of those games. And when the Steward has kind of outlived its usefulness and your opponent is still holding on to cards, you can force them to discard, potentially get rid of a removal spell, or just some other powerful spell they might be hoping to cast. Just kind of limiting your opponent's options. Yeah, overall the deck feels really solid as is. Taskmaster had some potential to do some work there, but our opponent prioritized removing it with the Banishing Light, I believe. So nice to see our opponents respecting that card, because that could have gotten us back some value. And yeah, the Devotee and the Dreadmalkin, they feel really good in this list. And of course the Amass synergy as well. So yeah, I think this deck should be pretty reasonable in the Artisan event, and definitely something I'm going to be running. And I just want to give you guys a little taste, little feel for how it can do. So yeah, if you guys run this, let me know how it does for you. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, jank with a purpose.